All right, so already you should have already talked about the definitions, or wrote down the definitions, or found the definitions for minutes and seconds. And pretty much it talks about like when you do those definitions, you actually can see like what you're supposed to do to be able to find the missing part or kind of figure out what's going on to find the missing pieces. So now here, example one, we're going to be using those notes or those definitions there to help us to change this this north latitude of 15.735 degrees to degrees, minutes, and seconds. So we have it in degrees, a decimal in degrees, and we need to change that to degrees, minutes, and seconds. So what we're going to do now is go ahead and do that part. So the first part, we already know that the 15 right here, let me do the 15 right here is our whole degree. So when we do this part, and we have the 15.735 degrees, I'm sorry, that looks horrible, guys. I'm sorry about that. Let's fix that so it looks better. So 15.735 degrees. We already know this first part here is our whole degree. So when we write this, we're going to do 15 is our degree. Now for the next couple of parts, we have 5 and we have sorry, not 5, we have the 735, and we have to deal with that so that we can actually go from there to find our minutes and seconds. So for our next part here, I'm going to do is add this part here, because we know it's minutes and seconds. So that means a minute, it's talking about 60 minutes in an hour. So we're going to multiply this by 60, because that's what we said we're going to have to figure out that going on. And if we were to multiply this out, it should be very simple to do, hopefully. If you need an actual calculator, you'll see that this is 44.1, and we're going to say minutes. Okay. Now, all right, so that's not bad, but again, we have another decimal, so we can't just keep it like that. So we're going to write this again. So this is 15 degrees plus 44 minutes. And then the last part is trying to figure out how to get this to seconds. And then again, with that part, we take that decimal that's there, the 0.1, multiply it by 60 again. Because there's 60 seconds in a minute. And we say this is our minute here. And so with this part, we're going to go ahead and multiply that out again. And we're going to find our next thing. And let's see if I have more, if I can push this down so I can have a little bit more space. There we go. All right, so the last part is when we multiply this, we should get our seconds. And let me add this in here too. So I left this symbol off and I left this off. So here, this will be 15 degrees plus 44 minutes. And this will be 6 seconds. Now, when you do this part, this is when they're getting as accurate as possible when it comes to a location on the actual map or on the globe itself. So here, what it would normally look like is like this. So we take out the addition signs, in other words. And that tells an exact location on the planet. And so it's going to be not bad. So if you looked at, for example, let's say you actually watched the movie Hidden Figures. If you watch that movie, you know that she actually narrowed everything down to a specific degree, a minute, and a second. And so she was able to get to that very number. So when it comes to this, that's what our aeronautical engineers and all these engineers do when they have to figure out actual specific spots when it comes to places in the United States, places on the globe, even places that are in the city, a specific spot, because if you need to go outer space or something, you need anybody from around the world can actually go to this specific spot and know exactly where that building is or where something is. So all of this is going to be, it's like really cool, especially if you're going to do like those types of engineering. All right, now with this part, this last part, the second part, let's go backwards. So now we're given the 39 degrees to 5 minutes and 34 seconds. Now let's go backwards and make it into the original one here. So you should be able to do either one and be able to figure out either one. And even if you go into Google Maps, you should be able to find, like if you put that in there, you should be able to still get an actual location, which I'm going to have you guys maybe do that later on. All right, so the second one here is actually kind of, I think it's a little bit easier than what we just did because it should be less work, kind of, sort of. But it's really about the same. It's really weird. All right, so again, I'm just gonna write this down again. So there's space. Now each one of these, again, the 39 degrees just stays 39. That's your whole number. Everything else behind that should be the decimal, like we had for example 1a. So like the decimal back there. So here, each thing is going to be, instead of being multiplied this time, we're going backwards. So it means we're going to divide. We're going to do the opposite. So that means here, we're going to add 5 divided by 60. And then the last one is going to be the 34 divided by 3,600. And hopefully everybody sees that, because if you went back to the problem we did up here, we did in purple here in A, we multiplied by 60 here, and then we multiplied again by 60. So technically we multiplied the seconds by 3,600, 60 times 60. So when we actually go backwards to make it original, the original decimal, we're going to have to divide the seconds by 3,600. We're going to divide the minutes by 60. And then we're going to find the decimal and we're going to add everything up together. So what would be the best, like in the calculator, if you did 39 plus 5 over 60 plus 39 over 3,600, you actually get an answer. And so when you do that, your final answer would be 39.093. And again, you're rounding this number because it's actually different numbers behind the 3 there. Is actually, but we're rounding it to nearest thousandth. So make sure you remember what the thousandth place is. This is the tenths, the hundredths, it's the thousandths. Remember, after the decimal, there are no ones place. So tenths right here, hundredths, thousandths. All right, and so that is example 1. Yay.